Math. Everybody hates it. Well, most everybody. But you need to understand the math of collectibles, even with comic books or cards or anything like that. Anything that you buy that you are going to be selling later on, looking at profit, loss, stuff like that. Let's talk about that for a little bit. Thank you for watching another video. And I know, math is not a topic for a lot of people, but like I said, you need to understand basics of math. You don't need to know how to do algebra. You don't need to know trigonometry, any of that other crap. But you do need to understand basics. Now, I come from the accounting and business world. So for me, it's, relatively simple, to put it lightly. Even when I was a kid, everything that I did when it came to collecting comics and cards, it was always, from a business standpoint. I always had my Beckett or my Wizard magazine, and I had like the little stickers, basically these things. I had like these little Avery stickers, except back then I used the round ones. And we would put them on the back of the cards or the back of the comic books. And in pencil, every month we'd write the prices that we found in the guides. And that's just how I did it. I always did it that way. I used to buy, I wonder if I have, let's see, here's a Thor number 365. I think this is from the time when they had those advertisements in them. This is because back then, there was no internet. There was no, here, this is one of the old Mile High Comics ads. Now, we used to go through these things and order online, send them in the mail with cash sometimes, because we were kids. We didn't have checking accounts. Or sometimes we'd ask our parents, we'd give our parents the money and they'd write a check. Same thing with the beginning of Prodigy and America Online. We would buy stuff online and send them, $1.25 in a self-addressed stamped envelope. And, they'd take the dollar out, the $1.25 or whatever, and they would send us the card in our own, envelope. So when it came to collecting, I've always had that mindset. That's why I went into accounting and business in college, in my professional career. It was just natural to me. But I've seen, watching some of these videos, I watch card openings, breakers, or just people opening for their own collections and everything. I watch a lot of comic book content, people who do, collection purchases, or, just online purchases from eBay, whatnot auctions, Instagram auctions, stuff like that. And some of the things that I hear people say, it blows my mind. One of the biggest things that just makes my head just boom, explode, is I heard somebody say, this cost me $12.45, but I don't count the shipping because the person gets reimbursed for it. I hate to tell you, that product, the way that we talk about things in business, the cost to get it into your hands is your total cost. So let's look at a couple of items. So first off, we're going to look at a very simple thing. This is how I track my stuff. This is what I call, this is my spreadsheet. This is what I call my master list. And everything has a stock number on it. So basically I started at 1,000. And then I just, went down the line and did the whole series. And every time I purchase items, I stick them in here. That way I know that, item number 1214 is Batman number 442 from New Cadia order number 7. Now I go to New Cadia order number 7, and that tells me my New Cadia tab. We go NK007, or just 07 because that's how this particular series works. Batman 442. It's right here. It tells me I paid $543 back in 2021. Obviously, I got it. But this is how I do it, and I also put it into cover price. Simply because with cover price, it makes it's the way that they're doing it now, they're adding profit and loss and all this stuff. It makes it a lot easier once you sell a book to actually see your numbers as opposed to creating it more in here. I'm not a very big Excel person. You can see my skills are not that impressive. But this is how I do everything. When I first make the order, generally, and this is when you see me doing my videos of unboxings, this is where I get the prices from. So, when we go and we say when I did the Midtown Comics opening with all those books that you just saw me do the last video, this is where the numbers come from. I'll make it a little bit bigger, but I have the date of the purchase. I have the reference number that the store gives me so that I know, for that. And then I give it my own reference number. And basically I just give it like a short code and then the number of times I've ordered from there. That's what this is. And then I just list everything out. The name of the title, the series beginning date. I don't like to use volumes or anything like that because that really does not help me. At least for me. I don't know, what volume number everything is, especially when you have a lot of these series, like Amazing Spider-Man. After the first series, the 1963 series, then you had 2, 3, and 4 were within like a few years of each other, and each one, and you have some of these books, some of these titles, the series lasts like 4 or 5 issues before it gets canceled, and then like 6 months later, they're starting another series. So it's like, I always use the date of the first issue. That's just how I do it, so that I know. Then the issue number, the quantity, the condition that I bought it in, and then the price per book. And this is where we get into it, the math. Shipping and tax. Both of these things go into your cost of purchase. Because, like I said, your cost is every penny that you spent to get the book into your possession. So for these books, I didn't pay any shipping because I spent a total, well, we have to look at what my total was because we don't have that on here. So let's look at the website. Okay, this is supposed, oh, there it is. So this is the last order. It was $98. So my book total was $91.90, which is higher than the $89 to get free shipping. So that's why I had paid no shipping on there. But this is where people will say, oh, sale, the $91.90, this is what I paid. This X-Men Alpha #1, it was $375. That's what I paid. No, you paid $375 plus whatever portion of sales tax applies to that dollar amount in your state. That's what it cost to get that book to you in your hands. So if we look at my spreadsheet, X-Men Alpha cost me $375 plus 26 cents in tax. So I paid a total of $4 and a penny for that book. That is my cost. Now, there are other things to consider. And I had this discussion, well, not discussion, it was kind of a discussion. It was a little bit of a back and forth in the comments on Johnny's Comics and stuff. I commented on a video where he was doing his how-to for Heritage Auctions. And we had a little bit of a disagreement on the buyer's premium. Because here's what we look at. So this was the first order that I did. That was a miserable order. When I got it, if you remember, this was like 2 or 3 videos ago, they said everything was about very fine near mint. The only thing preventing it from being near mint on average was spine stacking curls. or something, and we had books that were missing pieces on them. There were tears. There were huge creases that went up and down the book. This was a mess. But so if we look at my orders, past auctions, and we'll look at this one, because my next video is going to be the one that you saw up here. I did win another one, and I have that sitting over there. Well, actually, if we just do this, I have that order sitting right here. This just came in yesterday. So I just wanted to do this one first because this is really something that I've been seeing a lot about, the whole misconception of how the math works with these things. So, we can't see because they zeroed everything out. Okay, so we'll look at this one then. Because this really doesn't, this shouldn't really give any information. But here, the subtotal was $54. Basically, my subtotal was, I wonder, okay. They don't actually show the invoice. Okay, here. My secret maximum bid was $30. But my bid was $5 lower than my secret, like the actual winning bid, so it cost me $25. Most people would say, okay, I paid $25 and this was 63 books. So they would say $25 divided by 63 books, that's 39.6 cents, that's 40 cents a book. That's not how it works, because I paid a $29 buyer's premium, which brought me up to $59 just for the books themselves. Then we have, that brings us to the $54 of, subtotal. But I had to pay $37.31 to ship the books to me, and then sales tax of $6.39. So it cost this whole amount, this $97.90, that's what it cost to get the books into my possession. So if we take $97.70 divided by 63, that's $1.55. Here, 97, let's see if I can make this bigger. So if we take a look at this, we'll bring all those down so we have one clear screen. $97.70 divided by 63 books is $1.55 per book. That's 3 times almost more than what you were actually calculating in the beginning, because you had to pay all these extra fees to get your total bill. Now, me and Johnny had a little bit of a discrepancy. He was saying that if this was a single book for $30, $25, and I paid the $29 buyer's premium to make a single book $54, that's what the book would sell, that's what the price would be in GPA or some of these other value trackers. But I disagreed with that because the sale of the book itself was only $25. See, when you're talking about the value of a book, that's only what people are bidding on, to me. So that flat fee. So let's take a look real quick at something here. She-Hulk number 1 in a 9.8. So this book is an asking price of $7.99. So if this sells for $7.99, that is the price of the book as in the aggregators. You should not be checking, you should not be adding sales tax, the buyer's premium, seller's premium, shipping costs, any of that stuff, because this is what the book sold for itself. So there's a difference between what the book sold for and what your price to get the book is. So when you see in GPA, this should say $7.99. But in your internal records, you should say $7.99 plus, let's see, let's see, so we should do $7.99, let's say for me, plus 7%, is $55.93. $7.99 plus 20% is that's the buyer's premium, is $159.80. Shipping, let's say $12. We'll just put in flat numbers. So $7.99 plus $159.80 plus $55.93. So for you to say my cost of this book, well, we'll add $12 for shipping. My cost to buy this book was $1,026.73, but the book's value on the open market is only $7.99 because that's what the book sold for. All these other expenditures to get the book to you, those are your fees. So that's what I'd see a lot of people don't take into consideration. So if you want to sell this book now and you want to make a profit on it, you have to sell it for $1,100 or more, because then you have to include also how much you pay to ship the book to Heritage and how much their seller's premium is to you. So that's what I'm talking about with the math of things. The math isn't simply what the book costs in your purchase, in your cart. The math is what, on the purchase side of things, what did it cost to get the book to you? And on the sales side, what is it costing you in total to get that book sold and out of your hands? It's a very complex thing that, people, sometimes they don't look at and say, well, I bought this book for $7.99. That's what I paid in the cart. That's what the asking price was. That's not what you paid. Yes, you paid that for the book, but everything else that goes, like, especially if you're doing this for a business, all those items go into your profit and loss. So there's no easy way to explain it other than to say, when you want to track all these items, like I show you here, this is everything that goes into my cost basis. So I'll tell you, we'll look at, where's my comic shop? Because they charge shipping and sales tax. There's no such thing as free shipping with them. So here we have, make this a little bit bigger. Blood Syndicate, number one. It was $1 book. I didn't pay $1 for it though. I had to pay 84 cents as part of the shipping, and I had to pay 13 cents for sales tax. So that $1 book actually cost me $1.97. Now, if I want to sell that book for a profit, I can't sell it for $1.25. I have to sell it for $2 or more, because this was my total invested amount. It's the same thing with Heritage. Your total invested amount is going, no, sorry. Your total invested amount is going to be the $7.99 plus the 20%, let's say 27% for shipping, for sales tax and the buyer premium. So, and then we'll say another $12. So your invested amount in this book, if you buy this one, $1,030. Even though the book costs $7.99, your invested amount into this is $1,027. So you need to go and you need to now sell that book for $1,027 or more, but you pay another $12 to send it to Heritage. Well, also, let's say you have another 20% buyer's premium. So that premium is $12.32, and then we add the $12 that you paid to send it to them. So you need to sell it for $12.44 or more. Now you're talking about a book that was originally asking $7.99. If you want to make a profit, you need to sell it for like $12.50. That's the math of collectibles. It's not just a matter of, this is what the book is priced at, so I need to sell this for X amount plus that to make a profit. No, you need to get your head around all of the numbers and understand all of the expenses that go through it. Because if you don't, that's where you're going to get into a lot of trouble. And, it's even more important when you start doing things like packaging up, you know, new bags and boards. You know, you need to include those prices into what you're turning around and then into your cost of the book. Because if you're taking a book that has a, you know, it's like a yellowed board and the bag is rippled because it's so old, you're going to replace that. So now your cost of that book is also, you need to add in the price of a new bag and board. And if you're going to sell it, you need to also include the price of Gemini mailers if you're going to buy those. All those things need to be included in your pricing so that you're not losing money on these things when they already have, some of them already have slim enough margins. So, you know, there are things called sunk costs. Now, a sunk cost is what we in the business world consider an expense that you need to spend no matter what. So, you know, bank fees, sunk cost. No matter what you're doing with your business, you need to spend that anyway. You know, it is not worth thinking about in terms of, you know, including all these little costs into, you know, your selling prices. Your website is a sunk cost. You know, don't try to figure out how much I'm paying for my website operation to add to each book's sale price in order to recoup those fees. Some things, they're just there. But bags and boards, Gemini mailers, shipping, those types of things, those you could absolutely consider as a cost of selling. So when you're buying these things, you know how much one package is going to cost you or one book is going to cost you. So you could add those in so that you're more, you know, you're adding your operating costs into the cost of sales. But that's getting into a whole big thing. All I wanted to do is just go over this general topic of shipping fees, buyer premiums, sales tax, getting used to adding those costs to the, you know, the price of the books. You know, a lot of times if you're buying in person, you might not have to deal with it. A lot of this is going to be for like online purchases, auctions, eBay buys, Instagram claim sales, whatnot purchases, all that stuff. Because that's where you're really paying all these other fees. When you're going to a show and you're just giving somebody cash for a book, sure, maybe you want to take the price of the ticket and spread that across all the books evenly, the same way that we do the shipping cost. You know, you could do that to try to absorb your cost of attending a show into the book prices so that when you sell it, then you could kind of make your money back on that ticket. But you know, that's a personal thing. Like I said, I just want to make sure that you understand if you're doing this as a side business or just trying to make a little bit of extra money doing it like this, that you're aware and that you're doing things business-wise, you know, the right way. I'm not going to tell you about sales tax or that other stuff. That you need to speak to somebody on a one-on-one basis because there are a lot of different situations, or when anything that deals with tax, any kind of taxes, that is a one-on-one conversation you need to, you know, hold with a professional, because the way that you're set up and where you live and all this stuff, your business structure, all that stuff, that is going to be different, and that's going to dictate how you need to, you know, treat your business and your taxes differently from the way that I do it, differently from the way that person does it, or that person, or those people down there. You know, there's no such thing as an umbrella speech for, you know, how to set up a business or how to, you know, plan for taxes and all that other stuff. That's it really. So I'm going to end this one and I'm going to start getting into that box for the next video. And let me know what you think. How, you know, when you do this, if you do this for, you know, a side job or a side gig, I hate that term, side gig, but, you know, if you do this for extra money or to fund your own business, are you doing it the way I'm explaining, or are you just saying, I bought the book for this amount and I'm going to look to sell it for, you know, 5% higher and, you know, end up losing money on the deal? Or let me know how you actually run your, you know, your stuff, because maybe the way you do your thing is better than my spreadsheet and then transferring it over to cover price. I don't know. I'm not a seller. I don't have any of this stuff. I haven't even actually sold anything yet. This is just planning wise. So let me know what you think, and I'll see you on the next video.